This is a model from by one of my students, Shion, and I'm going to use it to demonstrate how to create whiskers if you want to create whiskers on your mammal model. So I'm going to right click over this seal here and go to face mode. Actually, the first thing I'm going to do is duplicate this model. And what I'm looking to do is create or identify a set of faces here and use that as a separate set of geometry to then create nHair, which will then act as the whiskers. So I have this separate seal object here. I'm going to select the first for a moment and I'm going to turn off its visibility by hitting 0 in the visibility channel. And with this second harbor seal geo, I'm going to go ahead and select the faces that I would like to generate some. I'd like to select these edge loops first, and then maybe using this paintbrush selection tool to select the remainder of the faces. I also have symmetry turned on here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say mesh and edit mesh and detach, um, edit mesh and or mesh and separate. And now I have here these two different now this nose from the second duplicated mesh is separated from the rest of the body. I'll just delete the rest of the body. I can also delete these faces here, the object mode, and delete these two eyes. I don't need them. I just need this nose. Now I can go back. I'm going to pull this out of the group. I'm going to delete the group and I'm going to call this nHair geo. And then I'm going to turn back on my visibility for the model itself. Ooh, I deleted its eyes. Okay, let's go back. We need those eyes. They are not part of that. Uh, they are not part of the model. Okay, let's go back here. Let's do that again. Let's rename this nHair Geo, and then grab it, bring it outside of that group, delete that group, and turn back on the Harbor Seal Geo model. Okay, so there we are. Now with this nHair model selected, I'm going to scale this down. Let's go to modify center pivot so it's in the middle of the pivot here. And I'm going to just scale it. I'm going to hit 4 so I can see. I want this to be embedded within the nose itself so that as the nHairs are placed and coming out, we don't also see this geometry or that it's beneath the surface. So something like that will work. And then I'm going to go to UVs. I need to create UVs. I'm going to create maybe spherical UVs. Let's go to the UV editor. So for nHair, um, we need to generate UVs, and let's see what these UVs are looking like. Okay, let's try this again. So there they are. Let's go to UVs. Let's say spherical, and then let's use the tool to maybe reposition these UVs. And maybe something like this could work. That looks pretty good. So this is how we will, then I'm gonna, in my UV editor here, scale these down so that they're in this 0 to 1 portion of our UV editor. And that looks pretty good. Now there's a texture on here applied, and that's not a big deal. What we can do is we can see that those UVs now will determine the placement of the nHairs. So, and now what I'm going to do is we're going to get out of the UV editor, and now I'm going to go into my effects menu set, and I'm going to use nHair, and I'm going to create nHair here. This is going to be a dynamic hair system, but we're going to use the nHair system not to create dynamic hair that will be running under a simulation or physics properties, but rather we're going to use them just to position where the whiskers will go, and then we'll create geometry from the hair. So I'm going to go first here to my create hair options, and this is how many follicles over the U and the V. So we're going to have quite a few over 8 by 8. Passive fill here, we might put this in at 4, and hairs per clump. I think this also maybe could 10 is fine. Let's see what it looks like. Points per hair, 10, and length is 5. Let's see what this looks like if we create hair on this. And let's also make sure that we're selecting the full geometry when we do it. So we'll go back to nHair here, create nHair, make sure we have the object mode selected, not any other mode. And we want the outputs put to be paint effects and nerve curves. So that's one thing to change about this. Let's see what happens if we say create hair. All right. And those are really wild and way too long. So we're going to undo that, knowing that that's what the default is for this scale of a model. I'm going to go in and create a length of maybe point, point 0.5, and maybe points per hair will be 5. Hairs per clump, I can turn that down maybe to 3. Let's leave passive fill at 0, and then let's create hairs and see what that looks like. I'm going to hit 6 here, or with 4 selected. This is maybe a good place to start. Now, what we see are a number of these red. We have here in our outliner, we have our hair system, we have follicles, output curves, and then we have the paint effects hair. So what I can do in the nHair, and again, this is a little bit long, so I'm going to undo, and we can kind of make things shorter by a length of a curve edit point within the curves, but we can't make them longer after we've set the length of the hair here. So I'm going to change this and say maybe 0.35. And let's see what happens when I create hair again. And that might be a little bit better. I'm going to actually undo this one more time and change one more thing about our settings here. Let's say just 1 hair per clump. Let's create the hairs now. And that looks a little bit better, right? And you can kind of see that now I have a single curve. I can select a curve here and we can see them. I have a single curve coming out of each one of these follicles, and each one of those follicles represents a one of the whiskers, and they're just positioned here based on what the UVs are, and I have them here in my outliner. I can look at each one of these follicles here. Now, if I don't like where a follicle is placed, if I don't like where a hair is placed, I can go up to nHair here and say that I want to um, change my selection. So I'm going to say display the start position. Okay, and so now I can see the start position of these hairs. I also am going to take all of my geometry here for a moment, and I'm going to put it on a display layer. I'm going to call this display layer Geo for geometry. And I'm going to turn off my ability to select it for a moment. Okay, so I just want to be able to select these individual follicles if I can. Okay, there's my curve, and I need to be able to go in and select a follicle. I can find them maybe this way. I should also be able to convert selection to follicles. Okay, so now I should be able to click on the individual follicles, hit Q. Let's see if it'll let me select individual ones. And I might have a better shot just by moving through these follicles. Now they look pretty good to me, but maybe we have some that are overlapping here. So find it and we can delete it from the scene. So let's keep going. We don't have too many when we're working with whiskers. I might want to identify this one and delete it. There it is, and delete. Okay, maybe there's a bunch down at the bottom. Maybe this one as well I don't want. So I'm just going to get rid of any follicles that are overlapping. I'm going to undo that and maybe bring this one back. Perhaps this one. There's one in the center there I can get rid of. These all look good. Let's move down this chain here. This one as well. That one. Okay, this and this. Okay, so now I have follicles and I have those whiskers coming out of them. So now how do I reposition? We have some that are kind of crossing here in the center. So if we want to reposition, these are just individual curves. So those are the follicles where the curves are located. We also have our output curves here. And so we can select these individual curves. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of the curves. I'm going to go to my modeling toolkit here and say multi-component, and I should be able to select multiple curves. Let's see, hair follicles, there's our output curves. Let's go ahead to nHair and say display or convert to selection to start curves. So there are all the start curves, and with multi-component turned on, I can right-click over these and say control vertex. And I'd like to shift and select all of these on the left side of this animal. And maybe I'll work from a top view here, hit F, and all of the curves that are on this side of this mammal. It's a little bit hard to tease them apart, but there we are. I'm going to go ahead and try to move these curves. Now, if I go and select, let's say this last control vertex here and move it, I'm going to end up changing the length and also making things crooked. So the first thing I'm going to want to do, I'm going to select all of these here, and I'm going to go up to nHair, and for modify curves, I'm going to say lock length. And what this does is it allows me then to select this last control vertex in that curve and position the entire curve using it. So I'm going to select the last one of these and start to tease apart these whiskers. So I'll have the whiskers on the right going off to the right and the whiskers on the left going off to the left. So I might now select object mode and let's select these. Let's maybe drag a marquee and we can select all of these curves. Select these as well, which had already been selected. And again, do the same thing where I go to convert selection here under nHair. Or no, sorry, when we go to modify curves, lock length, and with multi-component turned on, I can right click and go to control vertex for all of these curves, and I can tease apart these whiskers so that they are repositioned on the other side of the face of this model. Now this one's on the left side, so I'll pull this back to the left, this one as well, pull this to the left, select these over to the right, and this one down to the right too. So now let's go back to our, here we can go back. And now again, maybe we want to remove some follicles or reposition some of these whiskers here as well in the Y direction. And we're just going to kind of pull them over and straighten them out using this last control vertex in each curve with that lock length turned on. Oh, this is one where I need to go back to modify curves and lock the length. Now I can move this out of the way. Let me turn back off let's turn off the visibility for our geometry so we can just see the curves here. This one I might need to lock the length on as well. No, that already has happened. Okay, so that looks pretty good to me. Now what I'm going to do is go to my display layer here, and let's see if we can say nHair display all curves, and we have our paint effects here. And let's see what our paint effects will look like. If we go to our attribute editor, let's go to our hair shape mode node here. I'm going to go to let's see what they look like in the renderer. I'm going to add a Arnold Sky Dome light to my scene. Okay, so that's what they look like. I think that actually looks okay to me. There's just the thickness of them. Let's turn around to the front. We might want to change some values here with the thickness of our paint effects hair. So here we'll go into our hair shape, and we have hair clumps. We can thin them. We can change the width of them by scaling this down. That's the clump width. This is the hair width. There we are. So we might want to turn those down a little bit. And I don't think this necessarily matters for the shading, but we could turn them white at this time. But we'll finish this up. So we have our whiskers. They have the right kind of thickness. Now the last thing I'm going to do, going um, back to my viewport here, I'm going to say modify, convert, and I'm going to convert paint effects to polygons. And so now I have those paint effects now I have those paint effects, our one whole hair system here. I can go ahead and delete the hair system itself. Not my mesh, but everything else, all of the original nHair objects, I can delete them. And now here I have just my whiskers, and those whiskers are a polygon object. Okay, so that's how you can use, and then if I'd like, I can, going back to my modeling toolkit here, I can say separate, and that will separate each individual whisker, and I can maybe then go in and decide I'm going to reposition some of these. And so I can modify, center pivot, and maybe move some of these around and make my final kind of modifications. If I want to remove some, I can. And that is how I would use nHair to generate whiskers for your model.